won't waste another minute, no, I won't. I'm a man on a mission. I'm a man on a mission. I don't need no permission. I'm a man on a mission.
Welcome to Entitled to Nothing, where we believe our life is our fault. My name is Mink, and today I'm going to tell you a crazy story. A story about the time my father told me he was going to kill himself and that it was all my fault. I'm going to tell you how I used this pain, the pain of this moment, to create an amazing purpose in my life. So I started this show because I have failed over and over in my life. My first business, I lost $100,000 and went bankrupt. Once I started to figure some things out and make some money, and after I made my first million, I lost everything and had to start over again. And through this process, I found a way to turn my failures into lessons. And I've used these lessons to create a life on my terms. You see, the pain can scar us and keep us stuck, or it can build us and help us grow into a greater version of ourselves. And this is what I want to talk to you guys about today. I just want to have a candid conversation and share my thoughts around pain and how we can use it to create more power, more purpose, more potential in our life. There's countless examples of this principle in action, but what I want to do is share a story from my life and how I've really come to believe that our pain does create our purpose. So growing up, it was really humble beginnings. You know, we had a lot of financial struggles. And so money was always top of mind. It was always an issue. My parents were always fighting about it. And that led me to believe that as I grow up, I have to figure this thing out. I don't want to experience the same pain that my parents did. And so that was kind of the first example or the first way that I realized, okay, this pain has the opportunity to create purpose because it fuels us to not feel that way again. So as I started to grow up, right, I told you guys I started my first business. I lost $100,000. I went bankrupt. I went through this process. I experienced a lot of financial pain early in my life. It was a very difficult environment. It caused a lot of pain. But as I got older and I started to have some success and make some money, I just really felt on my heart that I wanted to help support him. So once I started making money, I started giving him a few $100 a month, and then it was $1,000, then it was $2,000, and then next thing I knew, I was paying him a full-time salary as an employee in my company, even though he didn't even really know how to turn on a computer or let alone do digital marketing. And this went on for 7 years. And I'm really honored and proud to be able to say that for 7 years, I supported him and I was able to take care of him and make sure that, you know, he had the financial means necessary to support his life. And even though he still treated me, you know, disrespectfully and was just really difficult to be around at times, I still just felt like I had the opportunity to give, so I served and I give. Then I started to have some business struggles, right? I started to lose money. I made some really bad decisions, and to make a long story short, I told you after I made my first million, I lost it all, right? And so I was going through this process of losing everything, and I was still paying for my dad. I was still giving him a salary, and then I got to a position where I had to take out a personal loan, and I was living off of credit cards. And I was still paying my dad because the pain of telling him that I couldn't support him anymore was worse than the pain of continuing to go in debt and in the hole. But it got to this point where I just knew that I had to tell him, look, Dad, I love you, but I can't do this anymore. I can't continue to keep supporting you. And I remember it vividly. I was standing in my kitchen and I called him and I was super nervous. And I said, you know, Dad, things aren't going well. You know, I've lost a lot of money. I'm trying to figure things out. I took out a personal loan. I'm living off of credit cards. And the truth is, Dad, as much as I'd love to continue to keep paying you, I can't. I don't have the money to continue to support you. And I want to help you try to figure things out. Maybe we can figure out a way to get you a job or do something, but I just can't continue to keep giving you money. And his response to me was this: you're a fucking asshole. How dare you do this to me? He literally said, you're a terrible fucking businessman. How could you, obviously you don't know what the fuck you're doing. And he just went after me and started like just pouring salt into the wounds that were already wide open. And I just remember being so fucking angry in that moment. It was so painful to have him do that. I was so mad at myself for putting myself in that position, but I was equally as frustrated after everything that I was trying to do to love and to give and to support him, for him to treat me that way. And I remember like it was yesterday, I was just so mad. And I gotta tell you guys, so I had to stop, supporting him. And I was very fearful what would happen, but he became so negative and so abusive to me, leaving me voicemails, telling me that, just the most hurtful and hateful things. I knew that things were getting really, really bad because the voicemails were escalating and he was getting more intense and it was more pervasive. It was about a year had went by at this point where we hadn't really talked that much. I was trying to keep him at a distance because every time we got on the phone, he told me how much I fucked up and how I had ruined things and how it was my fault that he was behind on the bills. I remember he was like calling me over and over, and then he sent me a text message. And it's so funny because he had one of those flip phones. He didn't know how to use anything else. And I don't know if you guys remember, but you have the keypad where you had to like push the buttons multiple times. Well, he didn't know how to turn caps locks off on the flip phone. So every time he'd send me a text message, it was all capitalized and it was all spelled funny because he's like trying to figure it out. I love my dad, but he definitely wasn't very tech savvy. So he sends me this text message in all caps, "We need to talk." And I had a couple of missed phone calls from him. So I got home after work one day and I sat down and I was like, okay, here we go. So I called him and he goes, I got a foreclosure notice on the house. And I was wondering if you could lend me the $25,000 I need to get the payments caught up. And at this time, I was just rebuilding myself. I was just starting Live Bearded and we were starting to create some momentum, but I definitely didn't have an extra $25,000 to pay him. And I said, "Dad, if I had it, I would give it to you. I wish that I did. I wish I could help, but this is the situation and I can't." He says to me, he goes, "Yeah, I thought that might be the case. And I'll be damned if I'm going to let these assholes take the house from me. I'm just going to put a bullet between my eyes and blow my brains out and be done with it." And then he hangs up on me. I'm like, "Hello?" And now I'm like, what the fuck? So I try to call him back. It goes to voicemail. I try to call him back a few minutes later. It goes to voicemail. And now I'm furious because I'm literally doing everything I can. I've went out of my way every chance I could. All I want to do is try to help this guy. And now he's going to say this to me and hang up on me. I try to brush it off. I wake up the next morning. I call him, goes to voicemail. I go to the office. I try to brush it off. I'm trying not to think about it. I call him in the afternoon. It goes to voicemail. And now I'm thinking the worst things. Like, could this be possible? Did this happen? So I call the sheriff's department in my hometown. I call him. I'm like, "Hey, I need you to do a wellness check on my father. I haven't heard from him. I'm fearful that something might have happened. He said he was going to kill himself. Can you go check on him?" So they tell me that they're going to send someone out there. And I remember I was just trying to distract myself with things in life and work. And I was waiting, a few hours went by and then I got a phone call and the number came up and I knew that it was the sheriff's office. And that feeling I had in my stomach, that moment right before I answered, God, I don't wish that moment on anybody. And I answer and the sheriff says, "May I speak to Anthony?" I'm like, "This is him. I want to let you know I just had a conversation with your father and he's doing okay. And he said he's going to give you a phone call." I hung up that phone and I was so goddamn upset. I was so fucking mad at that emotional abuse, that manipulation, the way that he just dumped that shit on me and then fucking turned the phone off. Like, there was so much pain, so much anger, so much rage in that moment. I got to tell you guys, this happened 3 more times over the next 7-8 months before he finally did pass away. When I reflect back on these moments and the pain and the struggle and the anger, all the experience of it, the abuse, the fighting, all of it, it is the most painful moments in my life. And I can tell you with absolute certainty, those painful moments are the only reason I'm sitting here in front of you today. It's the only reason I've been able to build the company. I've been able to create myself and develop the man that I am today. The pain that I went through with my dad has become the purpose in my life because I wanted to never experience those things again. I didn't want to have the financial troubles that he had. I didn't want to have the depression and the angst and the anguish. I didn't want to have the hate and the rage that he had. His anger and rage created my love and compassion. His self-loathing and feelings of worthlessness gave me the understanding that I need to build my self-confidence, build my faith and my belief in myself. My dad taught me that there's 2 ways that we can learn. We can learn how we want to be by example, or we can learn how we don't want to be by example. Either way, as long as we learn the lesson, it's a blessing. And that's why I know that my dad is the greatest blessing in my life, because his pain taught me how that I can turn pain into purpose. That's why I wholeheartedly believe that the pain we experience in life, the adversity, the failures, the struggle, the heartbreak, it's our greatest gift in a lot of ways. In fact, there's this saying, and it says, the greatest gift in life, the three greatest gifts in life are broken hearts, empty pockets, and failures. But that's only if we understand how to process them, how to process through them. And that's why I want to give you guys the 3 steps that I've used in my life to overcome the pain and the fear and the adversity, to use the most difficult and challenging times in my life to build strength and character and to create purpose. So I've just told you about this crazy experience with my dad. And one of the things I think is very, very important to understand is, at ETN, at Entitled to Nothing, we say our life is our fault. And that often causes people to be like, well, this happened to me and that happened to me. And Anthony, your dad treating you that way wasn't your fault. And I agree with that. That's 100% correct. The way that my dad treated me, the experience, the pain, the anger, the rage, him telling me he was going to kill himself, that wasn't my fault. But it is my responsibility to give it an empowering meaning, to use that pain so that I can grow and evolve, to not allow it to hold me back or to become even more pain, right? When a father says to you, I'm going to kill myself because you didn't do this and because you did that, he's trying to make it my fault. And it would be very easy, if that would have happened, for me to feel like, holy fuck, it is my fault he killed himself because I didn't have the money, because I did do this, because I did do that. But that's not the case. And if you've had something externally that happens, right? I had a woman reach out to me recently who took offense to this message of it's my fault, because she said, I was sexually assaulted and that wasn't my fault. And part of my healing process was understanding that it's not my fault. Why are you saying that our life is our fault? And I said, you're 100% right. I cannot begin to imagine that experience. So my point is this: there's always going to be things outside of us that are not our fault, but it's always our responsibility how we show up, how we react, how we respond, what we do in spite of those experiences. And again, that brings me back to this idea that our pain creates our purpose when we learn and grow through it, when we redefine it, when we reframe it, and when we reflect on it and we grow through it, it becomes an opportunity for us to learn and grow and become a better version of ourselves. At least that's the way that I like to think about it. That's the way I've trained myself to think about it, because there's going to be a lot of pain in our lives, and there's going to be all sorts of things that are happening in our life that we don't have any control over. Whether it's a father telling me he's going to kill himself, in that experience that I had with this woman, whether her being sexually assaulted or any other thing that's going to happen in our life. We don't control those. I understand that. That's factually accurate. But we always control how we react and respond. And if we take radical responsibility for our experience, if we take ownership of the pain, then we give ourselves the opportunity to turn those moments into a greater purpose. And there's countless examples of this out there, right? If you look at some of the best athletes, some of the most influential people, some of the experts and people that have had the biggest impact in our life, they've done that because oftentimes they've experienced so much pain in one area of their life. They made a commitment to never let other people experience that same level of pain. In movies and in story, they talk about the hero and the villain. And what's really interesting about the story of the hero and the villain is they have the same experience. Their backstory, what created them, what made them a hero or a villain, is pain. The difference is how they approach it. The difference is what meaning they give it. You see, the hero says, I've been hurt by the world, And therefore, I don't want anyone else to get hurt in the same ways. I want to make sure no one else experiences this same pain. While the villain says, the world has hurt me and I'm going to hurt it back. I'm going to go out and I'm going to make other people feel as bad or as little or as insignificant as I do. Now, I don't think of my dad as a villain at all. As I said, I think of him as a gift in my life. But I've come to realize that my dad's pain and the way that he treated us was because he was hurt by the world and he didn't know any other way than to just hurt the world back, to spew that anger and that hate and that rage. And if we don't understand how to process pain, that's going to happen to all of us. And so I want to share with you guys 3 steps that I've used throughout my life to process this pain, to sit in it, to embrace it, and to grow through it. Because if we can have the courage to sit in the moment, to feel the pain, to experience it, and to grow through it, on the other side of it, it does create a strength of character. It does create a hero. And each of us, we all have the opportunity to be the hero of our own journey, to step into the light and to become the man or the woman that we want to be. And our pain will make us that hero, but only if we follow these 3 steps. So here's the first one. The first one is you have to learn to reframe your pain. You see, oftentimes, the biggest problem we have is we think we shouldn't have them. We think we shouldn't have the pain or the adversity. We see things as bad or wrong or unfair. But the truth is, the problems and the pain, they're fear for growth, or they're fuel, not fear, they're fuel for growth. They give us the opportunity to grow and evolve, to develop strength. And as I said, I really believe that it creates our purpose. So when something happens, right, my experience with my father, rather than seeing him as a villain or a curse or an asshole, which in so many ways he would be defined as all of those things, and it would be totally justified. I don't see him as those. I've reframed him in my mind, and I've seen him as an opportunity to learn and grow, as a blessing, as a gift, as my greatest mentor, as my biggest teacher, as a man that was put in my life from God or the universe or whatever your belief is. I believe my father was given to me so I can experience the pain that I have so that I can become the man that I am. And that leads me to the second step. Once you reframe the problem that you're experiencing, once you look at it and say, okay, here's the bad, but like, what's the possibility for good here? Once you reframe it, then you have to reflect on it. And this is where that belief, life is happening for me, comes in. Because if we believe life is happening for us, the moments, the challenges, the adversities, if all of it is given to us, that means it's there because there's something to learn. So we have to ask ourselves, why is this happening? What can I learn from it? How can I learn and grow through this? What good can come from this moment? And maybe most importantly, how can I use this and turn it into a positive expression? If you can sit in it, and if you can ask these questions and really search for the empowering meaning that exists in it, then that leads you to step number 3. And that's to redefine what it does mean. You see, I think we can see something as the end or the beginning, as a blessing or a curse, as an obstacle or an opportunity. If we reframe or redefine what it means, by redefining the impact that that has on our lives, we take control over it. Said another way, we've got to redefine what it means so that we can find a way to use that experience as a force for good in our lives, to empower us to become a better, smarter, more capable version of ourselves. We said that we're given problems so that we can grow. So every problem that we have, if we redefine that as it goes from a problem to an opportunity, then we can use that to grow and evolve. Maybe saying this another way. So we have to learn to redefine the problems and the pain. You see, the definition, the meaning that we give to the pain is more important than the pain itself. How we relate to it, how we experience it, the story we tell about it, and ultimately the meaning that we assign it is far more powerful, far more important than the pain itself. In fact, I believe the meaning that we give it amplifies it. So if we give it a bad meaning, if I was to say, my dad was an asshole, he was this, he was that, and he's the reason why I've had these failures and this, and why my life hasn't went the way that I want. If I give it that meaning, it magnifies and enhances the negative aspects of those pains, of those experiences. But if I define it and redefine it in a positive way, in an uplifting, encouraging, empowering way, that's going to amplify it for good, for opportunity, for growth. So again, giving you guys an example from my life, when we're experiencing pain, the first thing we want to do is we want to reframe it in our mind. My dad was this angry, abusive asshole, and he taught me how I want to be the man that I want to be, right? I could have focused on the one, but I'm reframing it in my mind, and I'm saying, okay, yes, he is these things, and they are factually accurate. Okay, I love my dad. May he rest in peace, but he was an asshole most of my life. But if I just saw him as that, then I can't grow from it. So I have to reframe what he means in my life. And I have to say, okay, he was crazy. He was an asshole. He was abusive. He said the most hurtful things. And those were my greatest teachers because I learned, again, his fear was my strength. His anger and hate was my love, right? I reframed that in my mind. The second step is reflecting. Okay, if that is true, if that reframe, if he is my greatest teacher, what lessons can I learn from him? Wow, I can learn how to process the anger and the rage. I can learn how to work through some of these challenges. I can use them as growth and opportunities for me to see where he maybe went wrong and how I cannot repeat those same mistakes. And then finally, I can redefine the meaning that he's had in my life. So he goes from an angry, abusive asshole to my greatest teacher, to my greatest gift, to someone that I view as a blessing because his faults, his failures, his fear, his pain that was projected on me has created my strength, my courage, my compassion. Again, I am the man that I am today because of that pain that I grew through. And I wanted to share this rule for life with you guys today because life is fucking hard. It's painful. And if we look around us, there's heartbreaking pains all around, whether it's in our local communities, in our country, and in the world. There's so much pain, there's so much struggle, and there's a lot of suffering. And I don't want to have to tell you that. I don't want to talk about the negative aspects of life, but the truth of life is more important than the way that we wish it was. And we can only grow from a foundation or from a platform of truth. So we have to come back to truth before we can grow and evolve and get to the next level. And the truth is, life is hard, and we're going to experience a lot of pain. The pain of failure, the pain of loss, the pain of heartbreak, the pain of sacrifice, the pain of regret, the pain of discipline. There's all sorts of pains. And that's why I believe this principle, this rule for life, has the power to create or destroy our future. If we use pain to grow and evolve, if we allow it to become our purpose, we can create anything we want. But if it holds us back, if it limits us, if it discourages us or disempowers us, then our story is going to be one of pain and suffering. And this show, Entitled to Nothing, it is about taking radical responsibility for your results. And nothing is more true, nothing is more powerful, nothing creates more purpose than taking radical responsibility for our pain. We redefine it, we reflect on it, and then we reframe the way that we experience it. And with that, we can grow through it. I'll leave you guys with this. I really believe what is far more impactful than the pains we experience is the stories and the meanings that we give them. That's why we have to reframe them in our mind. That's why we have to reflect on it. And that's ultimately why we need to redefine it and give it an empowering meaning. Because your pain, your failures, your struggle, your heartbreak, That's going to give you your purpose, your character, and the greatest opportunities to grow. And that's what this show is about. That's what our lives should be about. It should be about stepping up and having the courage to confront every situation, every obstacle, every challenge, and then willingly stepping into those moments so that we can learn and grow through them. I believe from experience that the meaning we give the situations and circumstances in our lives is far more important than the actual circumstance. The way that we define the pain is way more important than the pain itself, because it's that definition that's going to amplify the pain and create purpose, or amplify the pain and create more pain. We're all going to have pain, struggle, adversity, failure, fears. That's part of life. What's going to separate us from where we want to go, where we don't want to go, is whether or not we allow ourselves to grow through the pain, to sit in it, to experience it, and to allow it to make us more. One of my favorite authors is Michael Singer, and he says every experience in life makes us a greater expression of ourselves. Now that my father has passed away and I can share some of these things, I can connect with people on a deeper level. That creates a greater expression of myself. Because I've made money and lost it all and made it back, that pain has allowed me to become a deeper, more knowledgeable expression of myself. I think our journey on life, our journey in this life, should be to become the greatest expression that we can be. And the only way we can get there is to learn and grow through the trials and tribulations. So guys, please join me in allowing our pain to become our purpose and fuel our growth and evolution. I really appreciate you guys spending this time with me today. I know that the greatest gift you can give is the gift of your time and attention. And if you've made it to the end of this episode, I would really love to know what you think about it. But more than that, I just want to say thank you for spending your time with me today. I believe all of our problems can be solved in 3 simple words. It's my fault. Our pain, our challenges, our struggles, our experience of life is our fault. And if we have the courage to willingly embrace those moments, we can go as far as we're willing to grow. I'll see you guys on the next episode.